let's talk a little bit about Roadhog for a second. So Roadhog has been a very weird pick in Overwatch for a very long time, right? There was the time where his hook before like hook 3.0 where he could like hook you behind the bus and like through signs and just in general it was so weird because you could like hook people easily off ledges, and he became like a really dominant terror because even if you played with cover, if you peeked and he got the hook off, it would like hook you around shit. And it was just this really frustrating thing to play against. And that got fixed, and he has always been, and like the core concept of him has always been this guy that, you know, has a lot of damage, can pull people in if they have a positional mistake, and can really punish that, and hopefully make a pick out of that. And then he's just a big blob. He doesn't really have anything worth of shields or negation, which is really weird for a tank because he's like the only tank that really doesn't have anything to control the enemy team, right? Even having kind of these push players and pop like a personal shield around himself. But he's always been like this big target that is easy to shoot, but has a lot of damage potential in hooks. And I think that the way that they have nerfed him now is the wrong way and was the wrong move for Blizzard, because I think that they targeted the wrong part of his kit. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what really Blizzard doesn't understand about Roadhog and the balance of that hero. As always, hello my beautiful and lovely gamers, my name is Jonal. Before the video starts, a like on the video helps against the YouTube algorithm, helps promote the video, the channel, all that good stuff, and it's very much appreciated. Same goes if you drop a comment down below, that also really helps. Do you agree, do you disagree? Let's get almost like a little bit of a voting poll down the comment section to see what the community feels, because of course, while I have my opinion as a coach, and while I have talked to some amazing people that play in really high ranks, what their opinions are, I think that it's important to get the entire opinion from the entire community. So, drop them down in the comments, and of course, subscribe to the channel and press that bell notification. It would be amazing if we could hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year 2020. It would just make my year a little bit better. And of course, if you want to improve, rank up, and get better at the game, you can hire me as a private coach. It's 50 euros for a 2-hour session. Hit me up on our Discord server, which is linked down in the description, together with my Twitter and Twitch if you want to either follow what goes on in my personal life, and also just whenever I start going live, when I've upgraded my computer, that you can get notified and we can have a talk on Twitch. Now, let's talk about it. So, we all know the patch notes properly. Essentially, Roadhog's damage got reduced from 175 per shot to 150. Meaning, if he lands, on paper, it's actually not bad. I think that's a way to start with it. The damage reduction on paper isn't bad. He does 34 hook, 34 melee, and 154 shot. Meaning, if you hit all pellets, you do 210 damage. Right? And that isn't actually that bad, right? In max, if you land all headshots, right, so you somehow land all headshots on a tank, like you go real up in the face and click, it's 300 damage. You can two-shot a D.Va, theoretically, right? That's actually pretty good. Right, you can still one-shot, you know, squishies. You can't really one-shot 250 health heroes, but that doesn't really matter, right? And that's the kind of the theme of this, right? On top of that, of course, they fixed his spread, so it's more reliant, doesn't rotate anymore, so it's a little bit more consistent in the spread. And on paper, that sounds like a great addition. Now, if you, however, played the patch, it's not that. It's incredibly inconsistent, and to make sure that it wasn't just me being trash, I hit up Cold, which is a friend of mine. I've coached with and I've worked with him. He's an amazing off-tank player with like 4.4 or 4.5k peak. I actually made this video about him a long ago. This is an interview with him about how he went from silver to 4.5k. And this is like an interview style. It's really good. Like, he talks a lot about like how he did it and like how you can improve rank up and really improve at FPS games, and also think that it goes to other games and other stuff than just Overwatch. I will link down in the description, because this got barely any views from what that video. I think even the thumbnail is really good, and also think that it's such an interesting video. So I will link that down, because that's one of the videos that I'm really sad that never really got the attention that it should have. But I talked a little bit with him, and he also said that while in higher elo scrims, which I haven't been in a while because my contenders team is disbanded, in higher elo scrims, we don't really play Roadhog anymore. We are swapped over to dive. Roadhog isn't that good, and even for a player like him, who's incredible on off tank, can't consistently one-shot with the new hog combo. And that is the problem. So here is why I think this is really wrong. And I will suggest what they should have targeted instead. Roadhog's main kit is the fact that if he hits the hook, he gets the one-shot. Now you can still say, okay, but even if he doesn't one-shot, you know, they're left with probably like 20 health, 10 health, you kind of name it, right? They're named with a significant low amount of health, so any follow-up damage should be a pick. The problem is sometimes you don't have follow-up because the Roadhogs that used to play a lot of time flanked, and therefore you didn't always get team follow-up on the hook. And on top of that, there might be sorry bubbles that comes in. There are nades from Anas. There are a bunch of heroes that can escape. For example, if you do it on Moira, she will just fade. If you do it on Ana, she will nade the ground, and now she's not to be healed. If you do it on a Lucio, he might push and start moving, and therefore be difficult to do follow-up damage on. Right? That's without the fact that a lot of time you can get heals in. If you have a good support player, they can heal whatever the Roadhog hooks. So there's all of this that can just negate, right? And there's more, right? Reaper can Wraith Form, and Genji can deflect and dash back out again. There's a bunch of heroes that can stop this combo, even with follow-up damage, to kind of set in. And therefore, making targets really, really difficult for a Road to get kills. And it's always been the fact that the Roadhog can hook a target down and just one-shot him himself, and therefore he has this impact that he's essentially this like really weird sniper where he has to go to an exposed position at all time where he can take a lot of damage and look for these hooks, and you as a team need to play around that with your barriers, with deflect, and so on. Now this was really, really, really effective because there was not really people that played that many shields, right? A lot of time we saw like Roadhog Zarya comes because shields wasn't that good. And we saw this far more like loose. There wasn't like as much of a main group structure as there's been in other stuff, you know, like normal shield tank composition where you're like, okay, you play with your main tank, you play around where we hold the shield, we kind of have an anchor. Then we'll play with, or even die where you do a lot of setup. There's like two, like, these Zarya and this Roadhog kind of moving around. And then we saw Roadhogs a lot of time being allowed to flank and being really aggressive on those flanks, getting hooks off and killing you. And that was really frustrating because sometimes it didn't feel like you could do anything against that Roadhog. He was so difficult to deal with. And then he would just one-shot you. And Blitz's approach to stopping that was, let's remove the one-shot. And it worked, definitely, right? They nerfed him so hard that he's not really that good anymore. He's not really competitively viable when we look at the top meta. You can still play him in lower healers, right? Because lower healers, you know, even, you know, if you learn to hit good pellets, you can one-shot from time to time. It might be inconsistent, but you can still do it. And a lot of time, the enemy team has so bad positioning that it's easy to land hooks. And the enemy team doesn't have the reaction time a lot of time or the ability management to bubble and nade and kind of use a bunch of resources to save their teammates. So a lot of time you can actually get some pretty easy frags of that in the lower elos. But in my opinion, this is wrong. Roadhog's kit has always been that. He's a zoning threat. He's this tank that walks around, who can get punished, but also, and you know, feeds a lot of ult shots and 2 seconds in there, but has this hook, which is really dangerous. You have to play around that, and there's this dynamic, and that's how that hero is assigned. If they want to change that, then rework him, make something different. But that is how that hero is assigned. And you shouldn't nerf the key aspect of the hero. This is the same as I said, if you take Genji and you remove dash resets, or you take Genji and reduce his dash range, the Genji is useless, because that is the core of the hero. Genji is reliant on that. Same way that Roadhog is reliant on hook. It's same if you nerfed Zarya bubbles. Zarya is relying on that to build up her energy. If she started building less energy, like say that she would build up to 60 on a bubble combo, or like 50 on a bubble combo, right? You would see less Zarya play, because she's not that good on that. And that is the important thing. It's the same if Winston could only target one guy with his Tesla cannon. That is the whole point of those heroes. They have this core in them that you need to keep working. And when you start nerfing the core, you are purposely sabotaging the hero and making the hero almost horribly difficult to play. The issue with the Roadhog meta was that, in my opinion, and again, I will also link to Cold's social media, his Twitter, if you guys go follow him. I think he deserves it. He's just an amazing competitor, and watch the interview. He has such a good mentality and mindset that I really look up to from him as a competitor, and something that I wish that I had more like that mindset that he does. So go and look up the interview. Go follow him on Twitter, because I talked over with him with this, and the issue is that Roadhog was incredibly survivable. And that was the irritating thing. You could put Roadhog on the flank, and Roadhog was really difficult to kill. And he had this incredible burst potential, which he should have, because that's the design of the hero. He, like, damage, high damage, that's why you picked Roadhog. But at the same time, you had a guy that had all this damage and was really, really dangerous. And at the same time, he was incredibly survivable on his own. That's why he could flank. He didn't really need his healers. He could just burst up 300 health with damage reduction on top. So he was real difficult to kill. And that meant that sometimes you could see high elo plays, unless your Ana on purpose to help made to anti the Roadhog. He could drop from a high ground onto your team, hook one of your guys, and then take a breather back to his team and somehow survive that if they didn't anti him. And if they anti him all the time, they would come sorry bubbles out, right, to cleanse it. And that is the world that we was living in, because he was so survivable that playing on a flank with high damage, one shot, and then incredible survivability on his own, that's without his team helping him, made him impossible to dislodge, real difficult to pressure out the map, and at the same time incredibly dangerous. So instead of targeting the main kit, which on purpose put him in the grave, he's inconsistent, difficult to one-shot with now, and that is the issue. The way that you one-shot with him now is that you, for example, you do a right-click, your secondary fire, then you hook, then you left-click, then you melee, and that is such a difficult combo to consistently just pull off over and over again that you have better options at that point, when you do these incredibly elaborate setups. So, reduce his damage reductions, for example. Do so he has less damage reduction, or do that on top of that, maybe if maybe that's not enough, and if that's not enough, then take a look at maybe, I think that him healing 300 HP is good. You could maybe turn down to 250, but I think that it's good that he's healing 300, because it allows him to, again, he doesn't have that, if not, then he's too much of a burden for a team, right? If he can't really heal a lot, then he's too much of a burden for a team, and then it becomes difficult to set up hooks. So, damage reduction, for example, does that he's more punishable on some of those positions, or potentially due to the healing, for example, maybe it heals over a longer period of time, so it's not 300 as fast, it's 300 a little bit slower, maybe with some less damage reduction, so it's easier to punish on those angles. You kind of get it? Like that, in my opinion, would be a far more dynamic and more fun Roadhog to play around with, and then maybe let him cancel. If it takes a long time to do breather, maybe let him cancel it if he wants to. So you could kind of cancel, use a little bit of damage reduction, then cancel back out, and then do some combos. I think that will also be making me a more fun and interactive hero, to let him cancel the breather and change that ability so he can't hard flank all the fucking time and just like do the incredible plays and then just escape without anything. Where if they have a Zarya and they have Zarya bubble, they can cleanse your anti, and if your Ana isn't insane and keeps anti all the time to hit the fucking Roadhog, the Roadhog can just do whatever the fuck he wants on the map because we can't burst him, right? And they have their own Ana that will pocket him if he gets in LOS, and that is the issue. I think that making him impossible to one-shot stuff, when that is the fucking core of his ability, is a huge mistake, and it's a bad way of looking at balancing. I understand that some people get frustrating, but a lot of time you get punished for those positioning mistakes. There are ways to play around that. It depends on the meta. You could also buff shields a little bit, or do something to incentivize different heroes played. So Hogs, so Hogs instead becomes maybe a little bit less powerful. They can be more difficult to set up hooks. I also think that stuff like nerfing a McCree, to a certain extent, also makes Roadhog, especially in solo queue, far more stronger, as there's no flashbang to cancel him if they push into the main group. There's no stun to cancel his breather, and Kreese are really good at pressuring out Roadhog because it's so easy to just ding 140 shots, and when he had fast fire rate, that was pretty easy to do. So that is my personal opinion. I think that this nerf is the wrong way to go. I think that they should do something that does him, make sure that he can easier do consistent one-shots, but it's less survivable. It's easier to punish when he does this incredible flank, because that has been the frustrating part of playing against a Roadhog, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. That's my take on it. Like on the video, again, comment and subscribe to the channel. 20,000 subscribers would be absolutely amazing. The interview with Cold, link down in the description, together with his social media and mine. Please go and drop him a follow on Twitter. Absolutely amazing competitor, and I highly recommend you watching the interview with him. I think it's a really good one, and I think there's so much to learn from a player that went from fucking silver to 4.5k. So yeah, with no further ado, thank you guys so much for watching. Please do take care of yourself, stay positive, stay inside, stay healthy. As always, my name's been Jonal, and you guys, as always, keep the enemy in your crosshair.